When Meghan Markle swept into Paris Fashion Week, she likely imagined herself stepping into the front row as a newly anointed fashion darling, another flawless performance in her ongoing quest for global celebrity validation. But instead of a triumphant debut, she was met with the comedic equivalent of a sledgehammer. Colin Jost, the razor-tongued Saturday Night Live star, didn't just poke fun at her, he dismantled her carefully constructed narrative with surgical precision. The incident began with Meghan boldly claiming that she had been personally invited by the luxury fashion house Balenciaga. It was meant to project exclusivity, power, and high society acceptance, the royal-turned-celebrity mingling effortlessly with fashion elites. But there was a problem: it wasn't true. The Balenciaga designer himself publicly clarified that Meghan had in fact reached out to them, essentially inviting herself to the event. The entire illusion of Meghan as a sought-after VIP guest evaporated in a single, decisive statement. Enter Colin Jost. Known for his wit and his ability to slice through pretense, he seized the opportunity to turn Meghan's fashion fantasy into a public punchline. On stage, he mocked the Duchess with the kind of dry, lethal humor that exposes insecurity without needing to shout. He likened the situation to someone RSVPing to a wedding they weren't invited to and then acting shocked when they're seated next to the coat rack. In one stroke, he captured the absurdity of Meghan's self-promotion, a royal figure so desperate to stay relevant that she manufactures invitations to Parisian runway shows. This was not merely a comedic jab, it was a cultural verdict. Colin Jost didn't invent the scandal, he merely exposed the fragility of Meghan's image with the blunt instrument of truth wrapped in satire. For years, Meghan has attempted to weave a narrative of global importance, positioning herself as a power player in Hollywood, politics, and fashion alike. But moments like these reveal the cracks. Without the royal machinery or institutional invitations, her public persona increasingly depends on self-curated myth-making, and when that myth collides with reality, it shatters spectacularly. Jost's mockery carried extra weight because it wasn't personal, it was factual. Comedy, at its sharpest, thrives on truths people are too polite to say out loud. And the truth here was uncomfortable for Meghan. She wasn't the chosen guest of Balenciaga, she was the one knocking on the door, hoping someone would let her in. For someone who once stood at the heart of Buckingham Palace, that image is devastating. More than just a fashion faux pas, this episode exposes Meghan's persistent pattern, overreaching for elite validation, then watching the facade crumble. From Hollywood power circles to royal corridors, she has repeatedly tried to insert herself into spaces as though her presence alone guarantees importance. But the Balenciaga debacle proved otherwise. Paris Fashion Week is not Montecito, it's a merciless arena where status is earned, not declared. When the designer publicly contradicted her claim, it was as if Paris itself issued a polite but firm non. Colin Jost understood the theatrical irony of it all. Here was a woman who had spent years positioning herself as a global tastemaker, only to end up exposed as a gatecrasher in the most literal sense. His joke wasn't just about Meghan attending a show uninvited, it was about the lengths to which she will go to maintain the illusion of relevance. The audience laughed because they recognized something true: Meghan's performance of status has become more transparent and more desperate. The power of Jost's ridicule lies in its permanence. Fashion shows end, statements fade, but a well-delivered mockery can linger. When a comedian of Jost's stature highlights the absurdity of your public narrative, it sticks. It becomes part of your cultural identity. For Meghan, this is another high-profile moment where her version of events didn't survive contact with reality, and this time, it was punctuated by laughter rather than deference. It's also telling that Meghan's claim was so specific. By asserting she was invited, she sought to project an image of exclusive belonging, of being courted by one of the world's most prestigious fashion houses. It wasn't just a casual error, it was a strategic attempt to elevate her brand. But when that strategy collapses under public scrutiny, the backlash isn't mild embarrassment, it's full-blown credibility damage. Once people start questioning your honesty in one glamorous context, they begin to question it everywhere else. Colin Jost didn't need to editorialize. His mockery distilled what many observers have quietly suspected: Meghan's public persona is less about organic influence and more about carefully staged optics. And when those optics are punctured, the result is not sympathy but ridicule. He simply held up a mirror, and what stared back wasn't a fashion icon but a figure scrambling to stay in the spotlight. This episode should serve as a warning to Meghan: the world she's trying to conquer isn't easily fooled. High society, whether royal, Hollywood, or Parisian couture, operates on unspoken hierarchies and authenticity tests. You can't fake your way into Balenciaga's inner circle without someone eventually pointing out the truth. And when that truth is delivered by a comedian in front of millions, it doesn't just sting, it defines the narrative. In the end, Colin Jost didn't merely make a joke about Meghan Markle. He delivered a public service announcement wrapped in wit. Status isn't something you can self-issue like a press release. Meghan tried to rewrite reality to suit her image, and reality, helped by a sharp comedian, wrote her right back into place.